Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is just us. It's just us in the room this evening. And look, Bruce is even drinking stuff, which is great. Now, last week, you might recall I said that we were going to have snow the following day. We did have snow. We went from 33 to snow, and we're back up into the 30s again now in the Seosphere. I've got a cold, and everybody in that, oh, what's he got there? Rubbish. See that again?
Oh my God. We have.
Where do we get those? Let's all get one of those. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on quickly. Yes, I've got a cold, and I might fall asleep here in a second. Not much has caught my eye this week. A couple of things. That's a good one.
Nice one, Bruce.
That's very good. And tonight's episode is brought to you by Bruce's Mug Collection, in which we delve through just so many. How's it, Victor? I've got grommet here. That does count for something, doesn't it? But anyway,
striking.
Absolutely, yes, that's right. That's before I had my beard. That's exactly right. Right, let's jump into DHL. That's something that I thought was quite impressive on Lake Victoria. Their fast machine, but what more, which is a wing copter. But more importantly, what I quite like about DHL, and this is why I'm going to seek comments, is they seem to do a trial and then tell us they've done it. They don't seem to come up with a load of bull dust and say we're going to do this, this, and this. They do something and then they announce their findings and then move on to the next thing, and they're not afraid to try something different. I don't know. Anyone got any thoughts on that? No,
I think that's how things are supposed to get done usually.
No, but remember that smacks of common sense, of which it's not allowed on this chat, and it's certainly not allowed in the drone industry. Common sense must be completely removed.
Yeah, I think in an industry where the currency is hyperbole, that just they got nothing.
Yeah, no. So fair play to them. They must have a pretty good handle on, and of course, it's medical deliveries in third world countries. It's obvious, we don't have road systems. Well, not everywhere there are great road systems and things like that. And it's easy, even if you're just going a few kilometers. It makes a heck of a difference. So, yeah, that's an easy win for them, I think.
Well, the thing is, here we're talking about DHL. Not some young startup that wants to create hype around a prototype product that they may or may not have produced yet. So that's a company with a long history, and they probably know how to do things properly. And really, I'm guessing they're not really trying to attract initial startup funding. So why create all that hype anyway if you're not going to deliver, if you're not sure that you're going to deliver? So might as well take your time and test it out, and then go around and say, well, you know what, we've done it.
Yeah, but those kind of PR announcements are always in the category of it doesn't matter what they say from us as long as they speak about us. So sometimes is just some glorified computer renderings. It's what I call the PowerPoints of tech. So you get some nice renderings and present that as a done deal. And when you go and try to squeeze out the reality lacks a bit. But yeah, good for them, good for DHL, good for FedEx, good for every carrier that wants to invest in that. We had our national post office also do some trials, but end of the day, we still get the motorcycle postman that goes and drops the packages when he drops them to the mailbox.
Well, here it's a huge boon in private or large delivery businesses because our post office has effectively collapsed. So anybody with a little white van is currently turning themselves into a delivery driver here at the minute.
It's Uber HL.
Yeah. Sorry, Louis.
No, I was just asking if it's a Uber kind of thing.
No, just little companies, small, 3 or 4 vans, or 1 or 2 vans, and just picking up on deliveries. They must have some sort of Uber style of getting packages in from, so you might order something, might come from DHL, but it doesn't come from in a DHL van. It comes in a one-man operation, arrives with the van. So there must be some sort of service like that for taking this stuff.
Get that kind of stuff too, and even the big ones do that here. They just subcontract drivers with vans, and sometimes they just stick a logo on the side of the van when they're working for carrier A, and the next week the same van will have the logo on the side of carrier B.
Yeah, it's a big thing. It's interesting watching the post office collapse here, because, of course, the post office in any nation was a nation-building sort of a thing. It was an absolute must-have. It was, part of your being, your national being, and a great pride was to be had in it. The postmaster used to be able to sign against things for surety and things like that, didn't he? Not anymore. They're not the trusted civil servants that they were. But anyway, that's just slightly off topic, isn't it? The other delivery one, excuse me, was Williamson's in Singapore, delivering parcels from the shore to ships. Now that I can see having quite big legs, as it were, and it would be very useful here to be able to, I guess, up to a given size. I don't know if your nut or bolt. I guess on a big ship, a nut probably weighs 20 kilos.
Gary, as a former marine engineer that's been more than 10 years at sea on various big ships, come on.
No, it's no good.
Come on, to get a letter to onboard the ship. Come on, give me a break.
Well, no, but surely if it could, good morning, Nos by drone. But surely if it could carry some useful size spares, and that's the thing.
What about the piston of the main engine, which is something that weighs a bunch of tons, as 1 meter diameter by 3 meters length? Come on, even the smallest spares.
I'm with Louis on that one.
It's
a
ridiculous.
Solution looking for a problem. Yeah. Crazy.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Sorry.
So you don't think there's anything that, or what size then would it start becoming useful? Manned helicopter size?
Yeah. The other thing too is that, like, if you've, in terms of delivering stuff out to the ship, if it's for spare parts and things, that's one thing. But it certainly wouldn't be cargo, because you're not going to use a drone to deliver something to a boat, which is then going to take 6 weeks to get to its destination. The boat will dock and you'll put containers on. It's
Well, that's interesting.
And the thing is, when do real helicopters have some usage? I had a situation that one crew member got extremely sick. We were sailing back to Portugal, and we had to change course to get nearer the coast, so that we would be in range of the helicopter. And when we were in range, the helicopter could only stay there for 3 minutes to get the sick crew member and back. And it was a Puma helicopter, those big Pumas, and they had some quite range. So I don't see any kind of drone doing anything similar and related to get an 80-kilo payloads. That was a man. At 200 miles from the shore. Sorry.
But surely you'll just have your e-taxi or whatever urban air mobility vehicle on board the ship now, and you'll load him into it, and away you'll send him to the nearest hospital. Surely that's what's going to happen in the near future, according to everything I read. Probably next Tuesday.
A trebuchet would be cheaper and easier.
Yes. Oh yes, there's also that. But that urban air mobility seems to be having quite a week of it. People are talking about it left, right, and centre as if it's an absolute done deal. I see another, not Frost and Sullivan, a lot they're doing reports in the UK. The lady there has come out with another load of tosh today, and I'm at the point of when an industry, when there are studies and so-called industry forecasts and they're utterly wrong. Should the forecasters ever be held responsible? No. The answer is no.
Were the forecasters held responsible when it rains when it's supposed to be fine? No, it's an educated guess, isn't it? You can't knock people for that.
Yeah, but what about when regulations are changed on the basis of these educated guesses?
And I've got no regulator will change for that reason.
Go on, Ian.
So I was going to say, a lot of the educated guesses, it's like figures plucked out of thin air. I mean, I guess it depends case by case on the criteria they're using. Except, well, obviously, we've seen studies where there's clearly been a remit at the start to come up with a conclusion. So those are the kind of things I dislike, because obviously with statistics you can make just about any argument.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to jump to your statistics because you've come out with some very interesting stats from the UK this week, and I have a feeling they bear out all over the world. But I'll let you explain your discovery, Ian, if you would, please.
Well, to be honest, I'm still looking at bits. In fact, that's why I was typing away whilst everything else is going on, just double checking stuff and running a few other checks, because the CAA in the UK, they publish every 3 months or so a PDF list that shows you a total of how many active pilots are, plus a list of the names and the IDs of each operator, just so that as a member of the public you can go on to there to make sure that somebody is legitimately licensed if they say they are, which is fine. But obviously when you can look at that, you can start, and I'm surprised, I mean, I've noticed people have a little look now and again, but I'm surprised it doesn't get quite as much analysis as maybe it should do, because obviously there's quite a bit you could extract from the data. So to begin with, obviously you've got your current active number, and this is the one where the Department for Transport or anyone that's talking about drones in the future is just looking at that one figure. And what the issue is it quite misleading, because the figure has been going up over time. So for example, 11 months ago it was about 3,500. It's now up to 4,600. So you can say, oh well, great, we've gained just over 1,000 in a year. Isn't that wonderful? Everything's fine and dandy and wonderful. But then you look behind that and it's not so wonderful. So what's actually been happening, if you look at the figures, is I'll give you some figures just from early ones, and then we'll discuss some more recent figures. But of the first 1,000 permissions that were given, which obviously they're all the first people that were involved commercially, they paid the most money for their training. And I think a lot of them would have had time to establish themselves now, because obviously they've been in the marketplace longer than everyone else. Because the argument always is, well, if there's people falling out of the industry, they just must be the newcomers coming in, just with the Mavics, not understanding how anything works and chancing it. But it doesn't bear out to be true if you look at statistics. So just short of 64% of the first 1,000 have already vanished. So they're no longer showing as active, and then it was argued, well, maybe some of them have merged. But even taking that into account, that would only be a small percentage. If you then go up and say, let's have a look at the first 2,000, you're looking at about 60% are lost. And then I've even taken that further. I mean, I've only just gone through earlier in the year my first renewal. So in the whole scheme of things, as a commercial the commercial permission. I consider myself a newbie compared to many, but 1,000 people after me, of 1,000 people after me, 50% already gone. So it just shows that if you actually start looking at it, it looks like we're losing at least one of every two that tries to think, oh well, I'll get a commercial permission. Some of those obviously trying to run it as a full-time business, but there'll be a lot of those again that maybe are subsidizing it and just trying it out. And it looks like, certainly given my case, that I've only gone on to one renewal, that for 50% already gone, that basically in the first year you've already lost 50%. So it's not the what skies of gold or whatever other terms I've heard it referred to. I think if you look at all the businesses, you expect 20% to vanish in a year. So it's definitely a higher percentage, and it shows that it's all the newcomers coming in. Sorry, I just finished this sentence. Yeah. So basically, the situation we're in now is obviously drones are cheaper than ever. Probably
yes.
It's probably not entirely true that, but they're certainly down the lower end compared to what they used to cost to get a drone in the air. And then your training is certainly much cheaper. It used to be you'd be looking around about 1,500. It's now down often to around 500. So it's now cheaper than ever for anyone to get into the game. And that's what's happening. We're getting an influx and have for the last probably 18 months, 2 years, a lot of people coming in, but it's because it's so cheap. And that's masking the fact that so many people are dropping away. But I think that is changing, and we will see eventually maybe even the figures going down.
Did I not see you say that you believe more people have left in this current time period than joined via training?
In the last 6 months, I'm still trying to double check it, but yeah, it looks to me in the last 6 months that we've actually lost more people than we've gained. But I'm not entirely sure that's true, but it's definitely turning that way. So yeah, it used to be, it was clear looking at the numbers that there was far more people becoming active than dropping away. And that is definitely changing. I mean, to give you an idea, this time last year, it was certainly a period last year, I checked, and I know it was around about 35%. If you look at the figures of active versus those that have left, 35% have left. Now, August this year, that was up to 38. Now, we're only a few months, on from August, and we've already heading towards 40%, if you look at it as a percentage one towards the other. So the inactive is climbing, so that suggests things aren't as rosy as they should be.
I wonder what the normal accepted business fallout rate is in anyindustry.com.
The churn. It's called a churn.
Okay, and what tell me about the churn then, Bruce? I fished well.
Churn is when you get any group of people where you've got some falling off one end and others coming in the other end, and it's a percentage that represents the rate at which you're losing and gaining people. And it's common in all industries, but it does seem to be very high in the RPAS industry, because I think people are going in with false expectations, and that's continuing. And people are still reading the news stories that say this is going to be a multi-billion-dollar industry, and even today they're going in there with their DJI Spark and expecting to make their fortune, and in a few months finding out they can't, so they drop off the end. But everyone that drops off, there's someone new coming in the back.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that. I mean, I've only given it a brief Google, trying to find out what the industry comparisons are. From what I gather, you expect about 20% after year one. By year 5, it can be as high as 50%. So if you looked at our industry over 5 years, you might say, oh, that's looking more normal. But if you looked at it over 1, you'd say it's not. It's significantly more people being lost out of it. And as I say again, I think it's because if you looked at it over a longer period, but if you're just looking at active numbers, it always looks like the industry is doing a lot better than it is. But I do think certainly we're losing people far too quickly out of it because of the expectations that people think there's something here that I can monetize, and it turns out they can't, especially if you're just going into photography and video, which is the main use case people start with. it's already saturated. And the fact that your likes of your BBC and so on have their own crews now doing it, so they don't need to ask somebody to come in to do that. And even the way that, and this actually frustrates a lot of the commercial users, the CEA is saying to businesses, if you're just recording stuff for your own company's benefit, you don't need to have a permission. So if you're doing like for promotional material, but that's kind of really defies the whole point of commercial permissions to some extent, because I think the way they were thinking of it, well, is some people that just want to get a permission that they need to build up a show reel, so maybe you need to collect some stuff, but really it's being used for businesses that would have otherwise got in a commercial pilot to do it themselves in-house without even all the proper training and insurance. And I think the insurance is the main issue there. If you'd have somebody that wouldn't be covered for what they're doing potentially, and that seems to be just accepted. Yes, you can do it.
So they are letting people through. That's amazing. I am a little bit surprised that that's happened. So why would you bother then with your permission, I wonder?
Well, that's what a lot of people saying. I mean, a lot of people are saying I'm not intending to renew for this very reason. There's others saying, well, the clients that I have are now a lot more educated and they realise they need permission and they won't use an unlicensed. So you have a mix. There seems to be a mix. I think it depends where you are in the country, and it probably depends what your use case is to how switched on your clients are. But it all depends if you've got switched on clients and that they appreciate the fact of the commercial permission, but there's plenty that don't. I mean, I've mentioned one case on Facebook, just discussing this general issue of a company that asked for effectively an advert. So they wanted a number of drone shots at different locations. They wanted interviews, so they wanted a ground setup, camera, mic, so on, lighting. They then wanted that edited. And I think they would have even, likely if you were putting that together, there would be some motion graphics of some kind, even if it was just a logo. And they had somebody that quoted £500 for that. I don't see how anyone with a genuine permission and all the costs, I mean, even someone that was just doing that as a ground-based thing, that would be very, very cheap. But when you were packaging the drone, you just couldn't do that and actually make a living.
Yeah, it's difficult times, isn't it? Good evening to Tech Dragons as well in the comments. Yeah, and I have a feeling that in America is going the same way. It's time now for people to renew their or two-year sort of tickets that they get there. And it's going to be very interesting when we go into the new year to see just how many people have renewed there and see what the current rate of growth is.
That could be skewed a bit by the change to Section 336, because now some people will find that they're not sure if they can fly under what used to be 336, so they may find that they want to hedge their bets by going 107. So
yes, that's true.
Some certainly will not renew, but there will be a flood of people saying, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? I need insurance. I need to have 107, otherwise I'm in trouble. So I think you'll find it hard to judge for at least the next 12 months.
I think you're right. I hadn't considered that. You're absolutely right. And I've just remembered, I need to get something down into this video just so it's recorded now and we can just say Yabu sucks if something else happens. But I see there's a big NOTAM enforced in the UK for a beyond visual line of sight flight, and that's probably Sensat. And so if there hasn't been a live broadcast of a lively flight now, whatever we see ain't going to be live. So anyway, just put that down there now. We'll just put that in. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the company created this big hoo-ha having a live flight with a control room and people clapping and all sorts of things like that. And when you delved into it, the flight happened a couple of months before they actually said it did, and all that wasn't in any way live. So it's either live happening. Yeah, if we get another live video, we'll be able to disprove that by this comment in this. Anyway, that's a narky comment from me, isn't it? But
nobody claps when I fly beyond visual line of sight. I did it last night. I took off in my home office and I flew into the living room with my little tiny quad, well beyond visual line of sight. There was no applause. What's going on there?
I know, and I see that you've in fact suggested a rather dodgy topic for. I might have to unsubscribe for your channels. how to safely fly beyond visual line of sight is coming up. Or have you done it? I can't remember.
I've kicked the ball off. I've asked people, what do you think? And overwhelmingly the response is yes, yes, do it, because we were going to fly BVLOS anyway. So I have started work. That's why I'm here early today. I'm getting flight controllers and things sorted out. And I have a test airframe, and I've just started a video on situational awareness because I'm going to emphasize the safety side of things. So the reason I'm going to explain why you're not supposed to do it and how perhaps some of those restrictions are based on misunderstandings of things like situational awareness and how it applies to FPV flyers and manned aviation. I'm just going to set through step by step. It's probably going to be about 7 or 8 videos in this whole series so that we acknowledge that people are going to do it anyway. So let's help them do it as safely as is humanly possible and do it that way. So I am the, what do they call it? The Clean Needles program for BVLOS.
I'm not sure what that means.
You know, with drug addicts, that taking drugs is against the law in most countries, but the authorities give them clean needles so they don't also get hepatitis and HIV and things. So then, in a way, they're endorsing the drug operations by giving them clean needles. They're acknowledging that it doesn't matter what we do, people are going to use intravenous drugs. So let's try and make it as safe as possible for them by giving them clean needles, and that's what I'm doing with BVLOS.
I see.
That's the Portuguese way for drugs. Yep. So you want to come up here and do BV? Come on. And yep. By the way, I was going to interrupt you for something because Gary, don't know if you noticed, but Bruce said that he's testing out some flight controllers.
I did.
Will we have Bruce Ardu pilots? Ardu Bruce?
No. It's. I'm doing iNav initially because it's easier to set up. But I may just go back to pendulum elevator. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, pendulum.
Nicola, it's your turn. It's your turn.
You go, Nicola.
Now, Nicola is going to jump on you about that.
Yeah.
Jump on me.
Just as you were talking, installed an RG controller in the crosswind and managed to set it up in, what, 10 minutes? Suck on that, iNav.
But you've done that before, haven't you?
Hey, look.
Oh, yeah.
I'm flashing a controller and doing screenshots.
Well, it is the evening in Portugal, and if that's what floats your boat, then that's what floats your boat.
Yeah.
If you want to,
got disco lights and everything.
As long as you spare the time to get to know it, it shouldn't be that difficult. And I think coming from no experience at all, whether you go with iNav or Ardu plane, Ardu pilot, doesn't really matter because it's a whole new system you need to learn. And iNav with all these command line thingies that you have to do in addition, I don't think it's that much easier to grasp unless you're a programmer than Ardu pilot. And the main difference for me is that the Ardu code is a lot more mature than the iNav one, and that has shown in all of my tests.
Yeah, the reason I'm using iNav also is because this is going to be a DIY project, so people can just follow step by step and download a CLI dump of the iNav setup that I've done. So if they're buying the same flight controller, the same airframe, the same servos, and everything else, they can just put that CLI dump into their iNav, and it's all configured, ready to go. They don't have to know anything. They can just, away they go. That's the whole idea,
right.
Keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah.
I don't think I could easily do that with Ardu Pilot.
No, you can.
You can.
You can. The main difference is that with iNav, with every version, they do tend to change the name of some parameters. So if somebody downloads that dump into a later version, it's possible half of the parameters are not going to move properly. Whereas, like I said, Ardu Pilot the code itself is a lot more mature, and such drastic changes between versions are a lot less likely to happen. So such problems are probably very rare. But with iNav, I had my iNav at 1.7.3, and then I updated to 1.9, and when I did the compare between the two dump files of the new one and the old one, it was a nightmare because half of the things were named differently. You can see that it's probably the same thing or something, but the name was different, which means that when you dump it, it's just going to return an error and not really change that parameter.
Yeah, I'm going to look at ArduPilot as a later option, but I just iNav is quick and simple. And if they use
as a suggestion, going with iNav is fine. I would just suggest that you would tell them download this version of the firmware if you want to safely use that dump. Otherwise,
exactly. Version dependent. Yeah, no problems. And then the reason I'm using iNav mainly is because Louis said use ArduPilot.
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. Also, you've got to remember, people have got to put the control horns in exactly the same place. Otherwise, it doesn't matter what your parameters are. Everything changes anyway. Because people
you can argue that they also have to use the same servos and the same motor. And
I know
I'm going to do
people do some wacky things, and they say, "Why doesn't mine fly like Johnny's down the road?" Well, it's because you've got servo arms that are this long, and you know they change stuff so dramatically that.
You saw our ArduPilot experiments on the weekend, didn't you, Gary? In the last video, flying wonderful ArduPilot, our iNav experiences on the weekend with those wings. It was fantastic.
Oh yes, no, it was good. No, I saw that. And the other thing is because you can also do auto tune. I don't know if you can do that with that iNav.
It's got auto tune. It's also got servo trim and stuff like that. So it's pretty good now. Version 2 is not bad.
We got Bruce tune.
Bruce. I don't want to hear him sing. That's not good. That's not the menu.
That would be terrible.
No, that's not.
You get this video would be demonetized immediately.
do you think the algorithm's that good? It's going to recognise it. You sure?
Yeah, some big recording label would claim the copyright on it, and you'd lose your revenue.
Absolutely. What was I going to say? I was going to say.
Apparently, I sound a lot like Taylor Swift, but I can't. Don't quote me on that.
No, I'll try not to. That video of which we spoke about last week, that video of the Phantom being flung at a wing, that's appearing all over the place, both in newspapers, well, not newspapers here, but the online presence of newspapers here, and in all sorts of forums around and about. It's creating the desired amount of fear. I think it's worked very
interesting.
well.
Did you see the video from Air News or something or other? And they actually got the people from the test laboratory saying it just dented the spar. So it just dented the spar. I mean, it broke the leading edge and everything, but there was not enough structural damage to cause a catastrophic failure. So, and that was a worst case scenario. 234 miles an hour. Who's going to be flying their Mooney M20 that speed at 400 feet above the ground? Nobody.
Exactly. That was my thought the moment I saw that. This is a ridiculous test, and it doesn't reflect reality.
Yeah, but it's.
I noticed on my video, someone put a comment saying that university is a trailer park university anyway.
But it's certainly if it was, depends what it was meant to do. If it was meant to generate some fear, then it's worked. Anyway, right, let's move on.
Blessed be the ignorant.
Well, I'll move away swiftly from that subject. I just thought it was interesting how it is and how slow that's sort of been. It's been quite a slow burner to pick up, and now I'm seeing it everywhere as shock horror.
And it didn't have propellers on it. It wasn't a proper test.
Yes, because they might have careened it off the leading edge, mightn't they?
It bounced off if it had propellers on.
Doubtful.
Yeah. Well, it might have done. It might have done less damage. Might have sent it off somewhere else. You never know. We'll never know because it didn't do it. So we'll never know. No, it was very interesting. I thought.
I'd like to know how they accelerated it to 238 miles an hour in that short length of pneumatic tube they've got. Must have been under tremendous stress to get that many. The G forces on the frame must have been quite high to start with.
A potato cannon.
They showed you on one of the videos. They've got a big pneumatic cannon and things, but I mean, looked like it was being accelerated over about 7 or 8 meters, maybe about 7 or 8 meters. So that's a lot of G's.
What else did I see? And I suppose to that same topic in a couple of groups I'm in, where I don't admit to have anything to do with drones. people saying it's only, you know, it's only a matter of time line comes out, and but it's going to be tomorrow when it happens, and all that sort of thing.
No one ever remembers the George Mason University study they did using bird strike data that said 1 chance of an injury or death caused by drones colliding with aircraft every 400 years. So it is only a matter of time, but you and I may be well dead before that time comes around. So, you know, it's only a matter of time before Earth gets hit by another huge asteroid and people are killed. Everything is just a matter of time. Time is the universe's way of stopping everything from happening at once. So everything is just a matter of time.
Where's that line come from? That's
Doctor Who.
It isn't really Doctor Who. That's a brilliant line. That's a brilliant line. So, right, I'll write that down. And of course, that was actually the biggest news this week. It was 2-part story to that, wasn't it? They moved Antiques Roadshow in order to put the new episode of Doctor Who on, in which a woman was the Doctor, and all sorts of storms of derision.
Is she transgender? We don't know.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't followed it. That Ian's a big sci-fi fan.
A storyline later on. Mark my words.
Oh, what do you reckon, Ian?
Oh, who knows? Who knows? It's the BBC.
Did you enjoy it though? I haven't seen it, obviously.
I've not seen it. I haven't watched Doctor Who for a long time, to be quite honest. But to be honest, I'm only wanting to watch it for a geeky reason. I've heard on this new series they're using an anamorphic lens, and those are kind of cinema style lens, very popular on the likes of Netflix at the moment. And it gives it a very distinctive look, and that's the kind of thing I'm into. So I'll probably watch it for that reason, if no other.
And what does that make that look like? Then explain that to me quickly.
Right, okay. With cinema lenses, to get the widescreen that we see, to save money, because they had the 35mm film, they put a piece of a lens that's called anamorphic lens, piece of glass. And what it does is it compresses the image down, usually by half. And then what they used to do was, and then when they projected it, the projector used to then stretch it back out.
Okay.
Now, what that does is, when you watch like Close Encounters of that, or lots of films, but you see it mainly in sci-fi, you get the horizontal streaks from any lighting source, and the bokeh, which is the out of focus areas, oval. So when you watch a film, your eyes are seeing all that, and you don't probably click that it's all going on. But that's why you will go to a cinema and you think that's a cinema look, and if you're watching TV, it has a different look because those use normal spherical lenses. But now, because of like Netflix, where it's crossing over into being like cinema in the home, they're using more of your cinema style lenses. And now obviously the BBC's decided that's a good idea too. But a lot of people that are into video as a hobby, or even, you know, it's more commercial, but even like your TV adverts in the UK now, like your British Telecom advert and that, they're all done anamorphic. So that's, if you, as you'll know, if you ever see my timeline, I'm building an anamorphic lens at the moment. It's something I've been into for years, but it's a very nice look, and it's not that common to fly them on drones actually, because they're that big and heavy. But that would be nice to see eventually, and I think one day we will actually see that anamorphic on a drone.
I used to go to school with a girl called Anamorphic.
There you go. He's here all week. He's here all week. But the comment I was going to make to that is you see, that's probably, I was going to dare suggest you can probably take a better picture from an aerial platform than I can, because I'm rubbish at it, because it's a skill and knowledge, the skill and knowledge that you have from an interest. And that's the thing, that's the difference that keeps some companies in business, where others, which might just be me thinking, of course I can take a fantastic photo because I'm brilliant, when really I'm not. And that's what keeps people in business, not those skill sets, not just owning the flashiest equipment. Yeah,
that's true. It's, I mean, whatever your use case is, whether it's the cinematography or whether it's the mapping, it's your knowledge for that and the whole end-to-end process of it. You know, even if in the normal photography and video photography, if you're doing it right, there's a whole end-to-end process to do that isn't just, because obviously that's the trouble with especially photography. People think it's just point and click, and if you're doing it right, it's not. There's a lot of stages to it.
Yes, it's oversold, and it really would be nice to find a technology that we could just line it up that's had a very similar lifespan to this drone sort of a thing, and see where we are on that timeline of hype and nonsense, and where it's likely to go, and similar forecasts for that industry, whatever it was. I do think the drone industry is being hyped more than pretty much anything else, really.
VR fits that, doesn't it? Virtual reality, that was hyped up as being the next super great big thing, and they had the Oculus Rift and everything, and millions and millions of dollars poured into R&D, and when it came out, not quite what was expected, and many crowdfunding. You like it? You like it?
Cool. It's excellent. The problem is they just haven't made it. I just don't. Well, I was going to say they haven't made it cheap enough. Not entirely true. It's not enough good software. It's having all the good hardware and getting that right, and not having appreciation of software. There's not enough content, and that's the key issue. But I still think there's still a future in it, especially because of like your Sony PlayStation. If you get this on the Xbox and then it's just plug in, simple, it will do. It will sell more, but yeah, it's at the moment it's too niche.
The thing is, it'll be like the internet. It won't really take off until the porn industry gets a hold of it. Can they use drones? I don't know.
So that's the only thing that makes an industry succeed.
Yeah, it worked for the net.
Well, that's the quote on your poster, Bruce. Porn, the only thing that makes any industry succeed. I can see it. I can see it already on the back of the book cover. I don't know.
There has actually already been. It was a few years ago now, but there has been a drone porn video.
Well, you'd know, Ian. You'd be the man.
That couple got caught copulating in the woods somewhere by someone with a drone.
No. This was specifically a director that went out and set all the people that were doing it, and then just threw a drone over them. It genuinely was set out to be a drone porn video. It was probably just so he could say he'd done the first one.
I wouldn't want carbon fiber props spinning anywhere near my man parts.
Yeah, well, yes, we wouldn't want them spinning anywhere near any time. I really don't like
demonetized again.
Again. With carbon fiber props, I really don't. Do we really need them? Are they really supposed to be a thing, Bruce?
It depends on the size of the drone. For small drones, you don't, but for big ones, the stiffness can make some really important efficiency improvements.
Okay. All right, and then
probably for the porn industry, the same goes for that.
Indeed, yes, very, very much so.
I rub Viagra on my plastic props; it makes them work much better.
There you go. Everyone a winner. Now, good day. Oh, Mick Malloy, the FAT. I think he said F-18s last week. Good day, Mick. How are you? Interesting report from Tridge about their Outback Challenge entry and the reason for the manual landing. I don't know if you saw that, but they had to their companion computer. They used some really poor connectors, and the connectors, the connectors didn't. In fact, what was it? If a wire is just called a wire, then is it what is a wire when it's not connected with its connector anymore? Just a wire.
Yeah, you know how it is. Sometimes we get confident with our connections and our plugs, and that was their mistake. That situation, it's not easy to get good connectors. They could have soldered. They've discussed soldering, but yeah, it works like this. So let's do it.
Hang on, have we all got to show one of these as some sort of code now?
There's a soldering tutorial on my channel, by the way.
There is a soldering tutorial.
Come on, Bruce. Go and redo the soldering tutorial trying to solder to the Raspberry Pi pins. That's a challenge.
Oh, no. If he'd used iNav, that would never have happened. Wouldn't have got that far.
Maybe, but it was. I was quite surprised to see that. Can anybody share a link to buy new leads for a Pixel? Good quality. New leads for a Pixel. Where would you go to?
Everyone, get your Banggood affiliate links out now.
Which Pixel? The newer ones or the old ones? If it's the old ones with the DF13 plugs, Oh my God.
Throw them away. Yeah.
Yeah. The new ones, it's quite easy to get GST, GH cables, so that's not a big issue. There are those GST. I believe I saw them on Hobby King selling little the plugs with a little piece of wire already so pre-crimped. So you just have to adjust that to what you want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I was gonna? I remembered something and I've forgotten that something now. It was. That's a Pixel 1. So it's a DF13s.
Oh my God.
Just walk away. Louis had to cut himself off then. Yeah, no, they're terrible connectors. How on earth?
Come on. No, they're not terrible connectors. They're
Terrible
not
disconnect.
no, they're not very practical.
Okay.
That's the main issue. And they have a special technique to be removed. But hey, we assemble, we don't disassemble.
Yes.
No, gravity does that for us, doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. All right, we're coming up to, we're a little way away from the top of the hour, but I don't think I've got anything more to say, really. Did anyone else see anything that caught their eye this week that we can rant on about?
Yeah, the DJI thing about the authorization system hasn't caused many issues, so the American people are distracted with the new rules for amateur flights. So that DJI authorization system came out, and no big reactions anywhere that I could see.
So you think that slipped through the net because everyone was worried about 336?
Yeah. So perhaps it was timing, perhaps it was luck, and perhaps Mr. Trump does not know that to fly a drone he has to ask permission for China. So
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know.
I'll interview him and find out for you, Louis. I'll get him.
Yeah,
on
I saw that was a bit inspired. That was very funny. I hate having to compliment you, but I'll have to compliment you for that. That was very good indeed, Mr. Steele. Very good. But how many more FPV pilots are there to go through for you to make that continue to work?
I'll do a promo for SUS News if you like. Not a problem.
Oh,
I'm sure they have nice things I see the AMA have come out with a statement in the wake of the of Congress's decision, and they've said, "Oh, there's some really good things in this for us," but they obviously never studied Minute Manager, because they put a little statement out and they put the good things and then they put the bad things. You always put the bad things first and leave on a high note. So, and again, it speaks to the fact they're just not very good at hyperbole and spinning and putting a case to the public. But I mean, for example, the 400-foot limit is going to kill so many aspects of the hobby over there. I don't know what they're going to do about that. There doesn't seem to be any method, any codified method of gaining an exemption for that, either for a single event or for a location or anything. So what are the thermal soarers going to do in the USA? What are the jet pilots and the big quarter scale flyers going to do? How are they going to, flying below 400 feet is really not practical for them.
Come on, yeah. Bruce, haven't you seen the Top Gun movie? They just want the jet guys just want to do flybys by the towers, so they fly very low. So 400 feet is too high for them.
Did they bring in the 80 knots? Because that was kicking around, but I don't know if that stayed in the language.
But the interesting thing is that their 400 foot is above ground. It doesn't matter whether you've got a structure or anything. Like in some countries, you can fly 400 feet above a structure or within a certain distance of the structure and so forth. But in America, it's just 400 feet. So if you go slope soaring and throw it off a 500-foot cliff, you've immediately broken the rule.
No, come on, Bruce. I believe it's everywhere AGL. The 400
AGL,
feet.
but I mean, in some countries, if you've got a 100-foot structure, a structure that's 100 foot above the ground, your AGL will be 500 feet to comply, because it's from the height of the structure you're flying over, 400 feet above that. It's not necessarily above ground level. And
it really depends. Here,
Yeah.
for instance, last week I had to fly above 400 feet, but I was flying nearby a structure that itself is higher than 400 feet. So I had to ask the Air Force, and there was discussion around that because I was flying above 400 feet. So I got to submit an operations manual and on the type of operation. So the Air Force allowed me to do that, because even so, I was operating inside a military exclusion zone. So to get things worse.
Did you see all the headlines where there's going to be a shooting fest in the States because now the cops can shoot down drones? You know, like everyone's saying, oh, they're going to shoot us down. No warrant required, no authorization. Just go out and blast the things out of the sky. All the fake news was running. Oh, you know, all the drones are going to be shot down, which is kind of interesting because on the one hand they're saying drones are the equivalent of aircraft. These are aircraft. They're just unmanned, but we're not going to give them the protection of aircraft. So that's such a mess in the States. I don't know what's going to happen over the next year. I'm glad I don't live there.
Yeah,
you'll just see then the drone flying to the sunsets and the music playing.
and a 25% surcharge on importing from China.
Yep.
Yeah,
that'll help.
absolutely. And I see one of the things that we've often spoken about, and G'day to Squishy 654 and the 653 of you beforehand, mentioning the FPV Freedom Coalition. No, we haven't mentioned them yet. We're going to need to get one of you on here to say what's going on. And he says, oh, this is dull. Page 284, para 6 states 400 feet AGL. There is no modifiers for special conditions. The AGL altitude is based on where the UAS currently is, not the takeoff point. Therefore, for terrain flying, you would have to descend to remain within 400 feet of the surface, regardless of your takeoff point altitude. I didn't quite get that. I should have. But anyway, I noticed that it also contained, and they've only got a short time to sort it out. I think it's 9 months or something like that. But they're talking about its spectrum allocations in the L and C bands. So I should have just Googled that. I can't remember what L is. Isn't L of the 1100 megs or something like that, or 900 megs? But anyway, so perhaps there will be also not only whatever rules are coming along, but you might have to change all your transmitters and all your FPV gear and everything. If all those.
That's a good idea. Put the RC frequency right along GPS. You know, right.
It is. Which one is L? L is.
I don't know.
Let's have a look. L band. Pretty sure L band's up there. Yes, it is. 1 to 2 it's 1 to 2 gigs, 30 to 15 centimeters.
That's also ADS-B, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there's a lot of satellite stuff up there.
Yeah.
So yes.
Interesting. Side note. I see that those Bang Feng radios, have you seen those Chinese radios which you can get, and they broadcast on just about every frequency there is. They're quite a versatile little radio. They receive on every frequency, like a scanner, but will also transmit. In America, the FCC has banned them because they don't want people transmitting. But it's like the drone market, because what they've done is ham radio operators, previously, they could use equipment that wasn't certified by the FCC because they're passed an exam, they're smart people, they're responsible people, so they had the right to use and hold non-certified equipment. But in banning these Bang Feng radios, the FCC has said even ham radio operators are not allowed to use them. And so, like, they're saying, well, we don't trust you not to use these. So they're eroding that special privilege that ham operators had step by step. And it's the same that's happening with drones and with model aircraft. We're having our privileges taken away from us step by step. And so there seems to be this overarching sort of movement to just basically take people's freedoms. It's unreasonable. How long before someone stands up and says, hey, we've got the right to bear arms? Let's go and use them.
And here they are. Yes, there they are. Yeah. And I've heard those radios are quite good. I'll let it be said that yes, and they also cost next to nothing, like $30 a pair.
They're very good. And in New Zealand, licensed ham radio enthusiasts can import and use them, but in America, no.
Yeah, I think they can use them in the UK as well. They can't use them in South Africa, so obviously I've only heard from people overseas that they're quite good. Yeah, they've been available, and we have China malls. I guess it's probably a thing all around the world now. But yeah, we have big Chinese shops here, and yeah, they're there by the bootload, and you're able to reprogram them very easily with the programming cable and put them straight into our PMR frequencies. They've got all modes. It's not just, it's all modes and wide band. Yeah, no, they are apparently very good bits of kit. Also, recreational providers in the industry may need to be included in section 349. Yeah, that is the trouble, isn't it? 1,800 pages, this whole document. You've really got to become an expert in it.
One of the big things is the need for drones to be approved or certified or whatever. Manufacturers may have to get like a certification to sell a drone. And if they make a small change, it'll have to be recertified. And what if you make your own? It's like, this has been so poorly thought through. It's been driven by that consortium of commercial things, and it hasn't been thought through. They just want this, we'll sort it out later. But the trouble is, under the Reauthorization Act, a lot of the things have a time frame. I think it's 180 days before they have the online test. They've got, so it's not like they can just say, oh, we'll do it sometime in the future. Now they've really got to get fingers out of their backsides and implement what's in the plan. I don't think the FAA has got the resources. I don't think they'll get it all done.
Yeah, no, the future does have a deadline, doesn't it, to it now, very much. And that, funnily enough, the airworthy requirements, reliable sources have been telling us all year that they would have something in place by this November. And, oh, look, it's not going to be far off, but it'll be close to being.
It's also interesting to note that there's a cutoff point for registration, 250 grams. But there's no cutoff point for the application of these new regulations. So you can't fly anything 1 gram, even a 1 gram thing. If you could build one, you couldn't fly it above 400 feet. There's no recognition of the lower risk profile for these smaller craft and so forth. So yeah, that sort of, because previously I think a lot of people in the States thought if it's under 250 grams, the rules don't apply. Well, they do, and the rules are a lot tougher now.
Yeah, the CBO thing. Squishy, are you going for a CBO, and will flight test go for a CBO?
Again, the entire issue is, again, the enforcement. You might have the most wonderful rules in the world or the worst rules in the world. If the enforcement will not work, or in the case of the US, goes to court and gets defeated in a court, things will change in the US. Not so another legal on other countries that have different legal systems, but it's the enforcement that's going to dictate the goodwill of the rules.
We said it last week. The UK's got the blueprint for that. Let the park wardens do it, then you've had it. As soon as Parky's doing it, you've had it. Drop the threshold for who can enforce, and that's what the UK wants to do. Squishy says that FPV Freedom Coalition is going for CBO status, and I hope flight tests do as well. And I hope people. Well, it sounds a bit grim, really, because the AMA is good, but I think if other CBOs are available, why not join one that potentially is going to fight your corner rather than just go the other way? I don't know. But am I completely wrong there?
You're always completely wrong, Gary. That's a good.
Fair enough. True enough.
No, we need as many people as possible to join these organisations, and I've been watching the FPV Freedom Coalition, and Chad's moving it along as quickly as he can. But it's very difficult because they've got to get a legal entity before they can solicit funding, and then there's a bootstrapping process. Chad's having to throw a lot of his own money into it just to get it off the ground, and as usual, it's like the 1 or 2% are actually going to get off their bums and do something. So he's taking a bit of a risk. And I think, as I've said before, I think the FPV Freedom Coalition is a niche CBO because it doesn't address most modifiers don't fly FPV. So, and in fact, in the USA, I think now or in a country like Australia, FPV is illegal under the regulations, but it's ignored. And so you need a more the AMA is supposed to encompass everything, but if you listen to the reports of some people, they go to an AMA field and they get basically told to go away. So I still think we need a global umbrella organisation which will adopt the chapters of various CBOs in the USA, and they can relate back, like the FIA,
yeah.
But basically for hobbyists, not for sports competition, you know. And so I hope there's a lot more CBOs in the USA, as there are with most other aspects of aviation. There are multiple CBOs in every but they won't work without the support. And unfortunately, hobbyists are pretty lazy and stupid.
It would seem people are saying, "Oh, well, there's not a lot changed. Nothing much has changed." Blah blah blah. I'm seeing the comments. People haven't caught on at all to what's going down with this, and there's going to be some big shocks across flying fields. Maybe they've done it in winter so that everyone's packed up. When they unpack everything next spring in America, they'll be in for a big shock. Squishy says that SUS is still defined as under 55 pounds, but the 250 gram line has disappeared. So is that not in the 18? So 250 grams, she gone.
It's only for the purposes of registration. As far as rules go, there's no low cutoff point. There's everything down to 0 grams.
No, it's in line with the rules in other countries, like we have here in Portugal. So below 250 grams is kind of free to fly, but no registration. Above 250 to 900 registration, and above 900 registration and insurance.
And it's mentioning in the comments, Squish again, global organizations, the FAA. Well, not quite. It's the FAI, isn't it?
The FAI, yeah.
Yeah, FAI. We are
it's
the
really
news
just
source
for competition flying, isn't it? It's basically a competition-based organization.
Yeah. They govern the competition, and it's Aero Modelers International. I don't know. AMA must be part of FIA.
Yes, they must. But then that'd be good if they're a CBO. But I do think the AMA needs a little bit of a reminder that it hasn't looked after the interests of its members and potential new members in droves very well in this, and it can't be undone. It's done. It's a done deal. It's the other thing. I think people thought we were going to get a couple of months for them to protest to their senators and things like that. And what was it? It was under a week, wasn't it? It was all done. Yeah.
Yeah. I think if you read that thing one page every couple of minutes, it'd take you as long as the consulting period was to actually read the document. 1,200 pages, huge thing. None of the people who voted on that will have read it all the way through. They just take their lobbyists' advice and vote which way they're told or paid to vote.
Come on, they have a TLDR, so too long, don't read it, and that's it. Which in fine conversation is called executive summary. So they just have executive summaries, so they don't care about TLDRs.
Yes. There's above and beyond, don't all CBOs. There are, I think the language has gone in to say what a CBO is. But have the, perhaps Squishy can tell us, have the AMA been approved? Have been the first approved CBO? I'll have to wait in the comments. You know about that?
Are they actually recognising CBOs, or are they just defining them? Like, if you meet the defined requirements, are you automatically a CBO, or do you have to be an accredited CBO? I'm not sure about that.
Perhaps they have to register, because otherwise...
One of the limiting factors is it has to be a registered not-for-profit organisation. So just casual groups are not going to cut it as far as CBO goes.
Yeah, so no one's officially been approved yet. So, all right then. So here we go. We go through this 3-month process, and one of the things that isn't done in that 3-month process is no CBO is approved. Then can anybody fly? Because there is no legal entity under which you're supposed to be flying, quote unquote.
You can see that 2 ways. Everybody can fly, or no one can fly because there are no rules. Which rule do you want to use?
Part 107 if you want to fly.
Yeah.
Oh yes, that's true. Yes, if you had a Part 107, you could fly, and that's completely. So who is the group? Who is the group that oversees Part 107? The FAA directly. There's no body responsible for safety and training, etc., etc. That's nuts, isn't it?
It should be who, because it's a problem. Because that's the problem I have to face almost every day. with different regulations on every country in Europe. So it's not very easy to do it now in Europe.
As most people have said, if you can't understand the rules, there are no rules. Just do what you do and do it safely. And because of the lack of enforcement, that'll work for a while, but eventually you'd have to be very rich and stupid to keep on doing that, because they will start enforcing these regulations more heavily once they've worked out that simply making more rules doesn't make people more compliant.
Yeah. Without 336, everything is defaulted to the FAA. Of course it is. Yes, that's the whole point, isn't it? Silly me. Yes. Oh dear. Oh dear. But then we have been saying this for what, 3 years or 2 years, or however long we've been doing this.
Yeah. But as I said, that's the same as every other country in the world, isn't it? The Americans just had that special privilege that they had Section 336. The rest of the world, we've all been under the control of the aviation airspace regulator in our countries. It's nothing new.
Isn't it devolved in New Zealand to Model Flying New Zealand? Isn't it go CAA and Model Flying? But
it's all controlled by 101, Part 101 and Part 102.
So still Bruce's law.
Bruce's law, which is no. Yeah, no, it's no law.
You might just don't get caught.
Yeah, well, yes, and you have the video for "Don't Get Caught Soon" coming soon to your channel. The "Don't Get Caught Soon."
Like those drug people that were putting drugs in a drone to fly into a prison in the UK, and they filmed themselves. Did you see that story? That's the caliber of people we got flying these things, causing the problems. We really, I mean, we don't have to worry too much about them, do we? That when they're going to take themselves out. Was it Darwin's Law or something? I forget what it is.
Yes,
the Darwin Awards. That's it.
The Darwin Awards. Well, Ian very nicely underlined last week why that sort of problem is happening. It's not only drones doing that, but because of the way prisons are organised in the UK and have changed, the security's gone out the window and stuff's going in there probably by DHL truck. It's
I see some prison they had, was it pizza or something, or Chinese takeaway or something, and it must have come in by drone, and I'm thinking, yeah, we'd use a drone to deliver Chinese takeaways to a prison. And the fact that they found the drone with the pictures of the offenders on it because it crashed into the prison yard, I mean, it's not really a very good way to do this, is it? It's very expensive. You've got to buy yourself like a Phantom or something, and the odds of you succeeding are very, very low. So why would you even bother?
Yeah, this is the point. Especially actually, this did wind me up. As you know, I was trying to get some statistics off. I think the Department of Justice, I have to call now. I had to go HM prisons first. I'm just getting nowhere with it. Misusing the Freedom of Information Act, basically. So they won't give figures about drones. Other than it's just really so we can not get to the truth. But funnily enough, I mean, part of the excuse they were using was why they can't just give counts of how many incidents of contraband they've had by drones, because they said, oh, well, it will give away our security information and procedures. Well, giving a count doesn't give away any such thing. Yet at the same time, their staff are on a BBC documentary, which I watched on iPlayer, and it shows you the entire investigations that they do on drones. So it shows you how they caught people, how they got the log files off the Phantom, how they use that for evidence. And so I thought it was a complete joke that you use these excuses, and then you'll give all this information, far more information happily to the BBC. But that did just show, they're trying to make out, drones are a big problem, but the reason they knew the drones were trying to deliver stuff was because they were always crashing. Because at the end of the day, these people can't fly without GPS. If you're trying to fly a drone GPS side of a building, you're in a GPS canyon. You're going to have where you're blocking and reducing the GPS anyway. So inevitably, most of the time, they're crashing anyway. So I don't think genuinely most of it is going in by drones. And it even showed you what they were doing. They were sending in letters into prison. The paper, they were actually blending into paper the drugs. So it was literally in liquid form. So you'd smoke the letters. So it's is how a lot of the stuff is getting in. You know, drones, whatever it is there, it will be a small percentage. And if it wasn't, there wouldn't be all this secret squirrel that there is about giving figures out.
One of the ones I like that I've been told they do from a police friend of mine is they tape cell phones to arrows and then they fire the arrow over the wall. I mean, just imagine being, you know, when was the last time there were big arrow attacks? With the War of the Roses or something like that? It'd be like that, wouldn't it?
Come on. UK, Robin Hood, come on.
Yeah, exactly. So they should be really good at it, shouldn't they?
Yeah.
Trebuchet. You can deliver more phones at once with a trebuchet.
Yes, we can.
But they've got those little tiny phones they can put up their bottoms. I mean, I can't believe it. There's so many ways to get stuff into a prison. What I'm wondering is, why isn't the mainstream media out there actually investigating and pulling the covers off this big hoax, which is the drone risk? I mean, if one of the major documentary makers did that, I'm sure it'd be a very popular program. They'd get their money out of it, just to show how the media itself has overhyped the situation, helped by government and regulators and prisons and all these people working to overhype the threat, and related back perhaps to the early days of the auto industry. That would be a fantastic documentary, but it would have to be done by a mainstream documentary maker, because if you did it as an indie, it would never get any airtime. I'm
just reading for some reason. Ian sent me.
This is a news story this week, and if this is true, somebody's laughing all the way to the bank. It's claimed that there's a minor royal wedding, I think Queen's granddaughter this weekend, and it's claiming that £1 million has been spent on counter drone. Meanwhile, the police are obviously telling people that if they do try and fly a drone anywhere near, they will be arrested and so on. So everyone's obviously on Facebook already completely skeptical that anything will be done anyway. But if someone's charging that for counter drone, if that's genuinely true, that is an utter rip-off. Because, you know, to actually buy the aeroscope, which will only be DJI system, that's about 10 grand. How many people could you employ for an entire annum for that amount of money? You know, how is that justified? But I'm hoping it's just the newspaper exaggerating there, but that is the figure that's been put down. But
and
what will happen is, go on.
The guy on the hill with the Nikon P1000 gets it all in glorious colour.
Also, I mean, you have got the cameras where you can literally see the surface of the moon that you can buy that can zoom in far closer than a drone. So again, it's
that's the P1000 that has what 130 or 140 times zoom.
It's a 3 meter equivalent lens. It's amazing.
So why is she getting married on the moon? What am I missing here?
Have you seen her?
I'm
a royalist. I'll save the Queen. Yeah, whatever.
Yes, as in the colonies have got to doff our caps, you know, young man. We can't, you know. Yeah, no, it's there are systems out there. There are some. I believe there's only 2 systems that properly work, and I know
sure that TINAV might be immune to that.
I'm sure.
But if they've got GPS spoofing, then of course, because I say all these sort of control, you know, C2 mechanisms won't work if you've got something that's on a mission with waypoint set. So they have to spoof GPS. And I don't know about the legality of that at the moment, because you know, if you have anything else in the area operating on GPS, it can cause major problems. So can they really stop a drone? I don't know.
Yeah, they can. If they want to spoof GPS, they will. They'll put everyone in the middle of Atlantic if need to, according to the GPS. So you'll have to fly manual modes. So that's why you have FPV, and then you'll have to do interfere on 5.8, 2.4, 1.2, 800, 900, 433. What else do you have to spoof?
5G.
5G is 5.8, around that frequency. So basically, you spoof everything from FM upwards.
Yes, that's right.
So what you're saying is that if they're going to do this, I will never find my way home with Google Maps on my phone.
There's no need. There's no need for that. You won't find it even with good GPS, Bruce.
But you won't for the 5 minutes that they're doing the interdiction. Then you won't need it. I see.
Sorry, jumping. I was just going to say, I do think Bruce is right though. You wouldn't go spoofing GPS when you've got the media that will be using it. You've got the public there using it. I mean, they did behind the scenes for the last rail wedding anyway, and it was two guys sat there with aeroscopes. So I'd be surprised if it's anything different this time.
If I was in charge of that, I would spoof everything from 109 megahertz or whatever FM ends up to the gigahertz range. I would spoof everything.
But you've been wasting your time because no one's in the least bit interested in this rail wedding.
I don't know.
That's why we have control line drones.
Control line. Oh yes. Yeah, but then I can spoof that. I've got the very device. Where is it? I've got scissors. I can do it. I can get rid of them. There you are. You see. There's the countermeasures. Just reading the comments there. Squishy saying FPV pilots fly BV loss all the time, even when they're within range of spotters. The pilot is behind his loss when he's looking at a screen or goggles.
Yeah, that's right. I think under the new thing it says the pilot must have view of the thing. Doesn't it mention spotters? Does it? And the new Reauthorization Act. Did I read something like that? So, Squishy probably knows, but I thought that effectively it immediately made FPV illegal because the actual operator had to have visual line of sight with the craft.
You just punch a hole on the screen of the glasses, so you always have the.
But it has to be unaided. No optical devices.
No, that's why I say just punch a hole on the screen.
Yes, that can maybe work. Spotters are required still. He tells us that. Anyway, look, it's 1:15 the hour. Before I put the gavel down on this very episode, I will ask again, does anyone else have anything else that they would like to talk about?
Yeah. You all know Raspberry Pis?
Yes.
And this is not a Raspberry Pi. This is not a Raspberry Pi. This is a typical V5 flight controller. And this is not a Raspberry Pi. It's an i7 machine that can run as a companion computer on drones. So the power.
Why would you need an i7?
Because you can. Because you can do lots of things with an i7 or.
Call of Duty.
Is there a Threadripper version? Where's the Threadripper version? I want to see that.
Threadripper.
Why not halve the flight time with an i7?
Come on. If you can have.
But you could put it at the bottom of a hot air balloon, and all the hot air would make it go up.
Yeah. And this is quite nice thing to use as a companion. Yeah, the big fan and cooler on this thing, so this thing runs quite hot, but it's quite impressive the size that things have come, so we can start using nice things and do lots of stuff on a.
How much lift does that fan create, eh?
I don't know, Bruce. Didn't measure it. It doesn't spin very fast, at least on the bench.
NVIDIA Jetson is being mentioned in the comments. What is that board?
This is an i7 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of hard drive. So it's quite nice the size that these things are coming. And so.
But how many frames per second do you get on the top games?
I don't know. Didn't test it yet.
You're going to be rendering video while flying.
Yeah, because it has an HDMI output. Don't really know why, but perhaps for those guys that have the drones.
You need a very long cord.
No. You guys remember the guys that patented the idea of flying a drone with an LCD screen doing advertisements?
Yes.
Here you go.
We had them there, didn't we? We had them on, didn't we?
Yeah.
FX Node says, I think that's what the Skydio uses. I think the Skydio is much
the
smaller.
Skydio uses the NVIDIA TX1. That's what they told us. But this is different because now the NVIDIA is power hungry. These are quite, when throttled, they're quite nice. So, but it's the purpose is the computing power of what we can have on board can increase. So we can do BV loss safer to all those that want to do BV loss. So, Bruce,
can you mine Bitcoin
mining on the go?
No, Bruce chain.
You can do
chain.
Bruce chain and Bitcoin mining on this.
Finally, a drone that will 3D render itself.
Yes. Yes, render itself into existence. That is a brilliant thing on which to end. I think. Thank you very much, everybody. I think we've already got some guests lined up for next week. Thank you very much, Bruce. Bruce, what is on the build table? What's in your world?
Well, there's the BV Lost project and there is the Ghetto Quad. I think people will be most impressed with the Ghetto Quad, a 2-meter quadcopter that you can build for $150.
Oh, come on, that much money?
Yeah.
Too much. You haven't done your due diligence going to dump diving on all the washing machines.
No, I'll use computer fans then, shall I?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, have 4 of those i7s there running. And Louis, what are you doing other than trying to heat up the inside of your i7?
I guess I'll have to do some holidays this week because I really need to. But in the meantime, still have to get this thing on my small hexacopter and start doing some useful stuff with this kind of machines. This really opens up the what we can do because you have a full-blown computer on board, not constrained by the Raspberry Pis or the Odroids. It's a full-blown computer. It's impressive.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, it's the way it's going to go, isn't it, for industrial machines? One way or another, it's definitely the way it's going to go. And Nicola, what have you finished building while we've been chatting?
Well, I actually finished installing the electronics in the crosswind. It's a mess right now as I'm still in the process of wire management, but it is in there and it's working. So all that is left is for me to tidy this mess up and then to plug in the wings and the tail and test if everything works with the servos connected. And Thursday, fingers crossed, I'll be out flying this thing.
Looking forward to that. Looking forward to very much to finding out whether those flight times, perceived flight times or manufacturer flight times were true. Because if those are true, then that is a 6-hour airframe with a mapping camera in your hand. If that all proves to be true.
I think it might be, but we'll see. We'll see. Tests would need to be run. But one interesting development, I've been pondering over the reasons for the Believer crash and why the flight controller locked up like it did. And I was talking to a guy over in Romania that he's okay. He seems to know a lot about these things. He flies a lot, doesn't share a lot for obvious reasons. And upon further inspection of the logs from previous flights as well, there are some weird things happening with the power module. So that is a possibility why it might have failed mid-flight. So I'm thinking now, I'm not going to remove it from the Believer, and I am going to risk it one more time. I am going to power it via something else, and we'll just leave the power module as a voltage and current sensor. It's not going to do any powering of the flight controller itself. But I am going to risk and fly the Believer with that thing on it, probably at low altitude, close to the ground somehow.
What
Just
kind
really
of power module do you have, Nikolai?
the one that came with the Pixhack Nano. The one that comes with the set.
Yeah, those kinds of power modules are based on the resistors. So if you want a reliable machine, you'll have to get some power module like this one that is based on Hall effect transistors. So you might consider getting one of these. I can send you offline the reference to the manufacturer. He's a German guy that does this in China, and they're very reliable.
Okay, yeah, I'm thinking more of a short-term solution, like connecting just a separate, probably 5 amp back through an LC filter just to power the flight controller with something clean. That's kind of filtered.
And are you pulling power from the servo pins or not?
Of course not.
Ah, okay.
What do you think I am, stupid?
No, come on. I'm just asking. Come on. I have a list with check boxes, so I'm checking all the boxes.
Nah. This has been rule number 1 for me for years. Servos are on an external rail powered by a separate back, nothing to do with the flight controller. That has been a no-go for me for years now, so that's not happening.
But I'll send you offline the reference to these guys. I've been flying these either on the industrial drones and also
actually on a few planes. I do have the flight controllers powered from the Matek PDBs that I'm using from the 5-volt output, and that is actually pretty well filtered and has been reliable so far. So I don't know if I'm going to split that or just add an external back just for the sake of it, but I am going to give this one more try and see how this is going to go, because there is definitely some weird behavior in the log for the power module, and I'm thinking it might be a problem with that one. So I'm just going to disconnect the black and red wires and just connect them from somewhere else. And Gary's about to fall asleep.
If you want to, we can help on that. Just send over the logs, and we can have a look at that.
All right, will do.
So you're getting comments about this above and beyond. Says 2 separate power supplies, and Rybat says do not use 2 switch mode regulators on the same circuit.
No.
And FX Node asks what sort of servos are you using?
What I've been always actually on the Believer, I think they were bigger servos.
And Rybat says he uses the mulch.
Yes, it's the mulch. Yes,
mulch. Yeah, that's I use those as well. Yeah,
it's the Christian mulch system. So they are extremely reliable. I've used these on very big drones, pushing up more than 100 amps, and very reliable.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have to deal with such currents anyway, so not really an issue here.
Yeah, but the thing is, if they work reliably at those power levels, they'll work even reliable at lower. Yeah,
probably. But this is the first time I'm actually having a problem with, well, supposedly a problem with the power module of this, of this type. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully, the Believer is going to survive this one.
Well, you better only fly over sunflowers then.
But no problem, Nikolai. Just send me over the logs, and I'll have a look, and also ask Tridge to also have a look at the logs, when we can surely point out something that comes up.
Perfect.
All right, sure, will do. Thank you.
And then, Ian, what is on your concrete mixer themed room this week? Oh, he's not talking because he's typing.
So I said this week I'm going crazy with LEDs, so I can change the
yeah,
of my workspace. And I have
Disco Ian.
Yeah, if you look down here, there's LEDs at the side of the computer and everything. It all automatically turns off when I turn the computer off, but as long as I'm on the computer, I can go full on disco.
Come on, Ian. Next week, you'll surprise us with Instagram filters on your video stream.
Yes, why the hell not?
Indeed. All right. Well, with that, I think it's a very good time now. Now we'll leave Ian to dance the rest of the night away in his own personal disco there. And I'll say thanks very much, dear viewer, for watching. That you've been there the whole time. Don't forget 2100 GMT next week. The same sort of nonsense. Have a very safe rest of the week. And if you're flying on the weekend, don't crash too much. And if you do, make it a really good one and make it a big popular hit on YouTube. Thanks very much. Thanks very much, gentlemen.
Bye.